Today's episode has been brought to you by Hinge Records. Is your record company taking all your money, spending it on strippers and beer? Are you tired of chasing down Bobby Big Time through dark alleyways and grimy EDM after-hour nightclubs, where everyone is bugged out like bats in a cave, high on Red Bulls, and you're just trying to get your name heard? Come, open the doors to your success at Hinge Records. Hinge will provide supplementary financial support to Canadian artists with a passion for music. Hinge Records, opening the doors to your success. Hey, and welcome to the first real episode of A Word with Van Bird. I'm your host, Devin Van Bird. We are kicking things off right with our first episode, bringing to you my conversation with Ivory Hour's frontman, Luke Rose. Luke and I met at a coffee shop downtown Toronto on Bloor. If you hear some chattering in the background, or even me slurping on a coffee, that's just the lovely sounds of Future Bistro and the warm chatter of local Torontonians as Luke and I get into some great conversation about porno theaters, songwriting, and studio recording. So we are going to jump right into it, but first, here's a clip from a song off their latest album. It's called Dream Worlds.
Late night, walking on my own. Street lights, smiling in the cold. At peace, the city sleeps. So quiet I can hear it breathe. Sunrise, nipping at the heels of dawn. And the pale moon's gone. I see them float through the trees. White clouds like they're coming up from a dream. A dream. A dream, like they're coming up from a dream. A dream, a dream. We're living in a dream world, so don't forget it. We're living in a dream world. We're living in a dream world, so don't forget.
When was your first album drop?
I'd have to think about that. I would say like when things really started kicking off for us was 2015. We had put out an album called Morning Light and a song off of that called War Paint. It got picked up by The Edge as part of their radio contest, and we won a bunch of money that year actually, and were able to kind of invest into our career quite a bit with some touring and stuff like that. And yeah, since then it's been pretty nice.
Good guys, man. Good guys. You guys are from London, based?
Yes, I guess.
I was
born in Saskatchewan, grew up like just outside of London in a small town called Mount Bridges, where my parents
I know Mount Bridges.
live, and spent some time in Vancouver with this band, but also in London, and then now here we are in Toronto.
Yeah,
so
cool. Did you move to Toronto for like music reasons?
A bit of a combination. Part of it is like to be closer to the industry. Part of it is just like it's an inspiring place, and also just like I find it very good for me to move around every little bit.
You're a nomad.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit. Every new city kind of inspires you in different ways, and just like
Toronto's a cool city.
Yeah, it is neat.
Like, I lived here for a year, and it's got a good music scene for sure. It's always something going on. I found you could go out like 7 days a week and never see the same person twice.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Coming from a place like London, it's a lot smaller, obviously.
Yeah, variety and just like enough weird people to support some kind of, I don't know, interesting creative opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, there's more money in the bigger city.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious. You spent some time in was it Vancouver?
Yep.
It was Vancouver. Would you say, like, supportively in the industry, do you find BC is more supportive than Ontario? Or do you think Ontario, is there...
I don't think I could quantitatively say that. I think when I was there, I was much less mature about how I conducted the business part of the band. I was very much kind of developing my writing skill and stuff there, and just like enjoying the city more than really digging into like what was available in terms of public funding and that kind of thing. I know, like, I think it's BC Music Fund or something like that. It was very is good for a lot of artists there and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was my impression about BC, Vancouver area. It's just like they invest a lot in the music.
Yeah, it seems like that. They invest a lot in the film industry there as well, and they've got a good set of venues in Vancouver as well. It's like what I noticed from touring there in recent
Everybody's
times
got a
is
band
that
playing.
but they do, but a lot of them have actually transitioned into like having bands early and then DJs in the night. They like kind of double dip on it because they're have a hard time making as much money off of shows, which isn't I don't know, isn't kind of as nice as like a venue with like the Horseshoe, where it's like there's a show and then you can kind of hang out there till like 2 a.m. after your show or something like that. There it's like boom, curfew, throw you out the door, or you can stay and listen to a DJ. But
I can actually relate to that. I flew out to Vancouver a year and a bit ago for a show at the Roxy.
yeah,
And it was exactly that. I was the first act of the night. Barely anybody came out, but the following band had quite the following. Following band, English language, eh?
yeah.
But I was on at like 7, and then it slowly like built up for my buddy's band to play, and then they just had like it wasn't even a DJ, it was just like a house band came in and just started jamming out.
Yeah.
And by the end of the night, like the place was packed, and they just like. But the house band, they're playing popular music and stuff.
Yeah, covers and that kind of thing
Yeah.
too. I mean, that's like nice in some ways too, but yeah, I don't know. It puts like a lot of pressure on the original music, and I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I know that these venues have to make money to stay alive, and so if that's what they have to do, that's
Oh
what
yeah,
they gotta
whatever.
do.
We don't want to be bashful on the venues themselves. Was there? Do you ever? I was gonna ask you, like, where's? It seems rude to ask, but I'm really curious, because you're in this band and you're obviously making some sort of revenue off of it. Where's the majority of the income for you? Like, how do you pay rent at the end of the day? Do you have a day job?
I don't right now. Income, like, as a band is pretty diverse, I would say. Some of it comes from streaming online sales, some of it comes from shows, some of it comes from royalties, some
So
comes
it's spread
from
out pretty far then.
Yeah, well, there's just in the modern music industry, it's like there are a lot of different places to make money, and they kind of, you need to do that to add up to something real. But yeah, and some of that is like commercial placements and that kind of thing as well. So
You got your songs on commercials?
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
we have had a bit of luck with that,
Is it
which is
online
always
commercials
nice.
or TV?
The biggest one we've done was our tune called Dreamer was on a Coke commercial that played in theaters, TV, and where else was that? Online, I think, on some things as well.
Kick-ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that out of Toronto, the commercial? So I know they do a lot
I
of...
believe so. It was out of a placement firm here, yeah.
Nice, decent.
hmm
Yeah, I could see your music being featured on You got some feel-good tunes.
Yeah, I mean, the more of those you can get, the better. I feel like people used to be worried about selling out quite a bit and that kind of thing, but now, money's pretty thin in terms of record sales and that kind of thing, so people are a lot more understanding about that.
Well, like, what do you prefer to write, as an artist? What's your favorite
kind of
song to write? Like
music?
the super sad, depressing song, or like the feel-good, or is it like every song's different for you?
I think it is different. I think the sad, like, or melancholic stuff seems to come to me fairly easily, I think.
Yeah.
But it's for me, like, having played live and like seeing how certain songs kind of land, I have a lot of fun writing upbeat music as well, just like knowing how much fun
Yeah.
it's going to be to play live.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can have like the happiest sounding song with the saddest lyrics too, if you really wanted. Or vice
so I
versa,
do.
right? That's
I
a really good way to
sometimes I do
go
that
about.
just to get a little bit of both worlds in there for sure.
Have the dichotomy of the two. Just kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, music's such a weird, it's a strange art form.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, like, there's like music with instrumental music. I mean, you would have the classical era of big bands playing, and they would have a whole orchestra playing a song, and then you could have also opera, and there's like all these people involved to play music and have an opera, and that tied into like theater. But modern music seems to be a lot of it's writing lyrics and hooks and stuff, but we have the opportunity to like tell stories at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also like, as a musician and you're a songwriter. As a songwriter, you got to be a lyric writer specifically. You got to be a poet as well as a musician.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
like
what I
that
mean.
balance. I guess it's kind of interesting. I haven't thought about that for a little while too, but yeah, popular music used to be instrumental music, which is kind of an interesting thing. I like the marriage of the two. I like, I feel like there's still a lot of that like kind of classical music, I think, mentality, and actually like in metal, I think now too.
Yeah, you got Intervals does all instrumental, but
Yeah, there's lots of that stuff, and they kind of carry that tradition of sort of truly trying to like create a feeling with the music. Whereas for me, I think it's interesting to be able to create a feeling with the music, and then also a more specific thought with the words. I think that's neat.
more specific. Sorry, can you like give me an example maybe?
Well, like you were saying earlier, how you can kind of marry maybe a dark lyric to a happy sounding song.
Yeah,
I think those technically are kind of well, maybe not wrong, but they fight each other in that like classic sense. But
Yeah, I guess so.
I think that's interesting, and also like you can say even you're doing something more straightforward and creating sort of a sad sounding thing, but a lyric can give you more depth to that by describing why you're sad or what that thing is, or maybe put
More
I don't know,
emphasis on
create
it.
some kind of like bittersweetness to that. But some people are so good at writing melodies that it's kind of implied in the music, which
Yeah.
is maybe even a more special skill. I don't know.
Yeah, it gives like conveys like emotions more. I find like they call like a heavenly seventh, for example. It's like they call it that for a specific reason. It's like has that feeling to it, and I like to think of like chords and notes as like colors and painting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wish that I could do that. Like, I wish I was
hard. I mean, that's like-
synesthete or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty.
Were you ever
fancy.
were you ever more into metal?
I was when I was first learning guitar.
Yeah.
I really was into like technical kind of guitar playing, and listened to some Opeth and some what else was in that mix. It's just that where like that's the venue where a lot of people can like really let loose on an instrument. And
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Not thought of as overplaying, I guess. So
Yep.
I grew out of it a little bit, but I still really appreciate that like kind of dedication to mastering an instrument.
Yeah, you probably learned a lot from that too.
Yeah,
So the
for sure.
technicality of it's pretty.
And just the
pretty intense.
mentality of like wanting to master your instrument, I think I just think that's a good attitude to have, even if you're not playing to the utmost of your ability at all times. Just to like have that understanding of the instrument is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you see so many metal bands, I mean, especially with today's technology, like way overproduce on an album. And then when it comes to live shows, like they try their best, but they can't always like capture it. But the energy's always there. I think that's like the important part.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the best metal bands can, and like a lot of them are, I don't know, like, what is that band with it's like Cyanide Jesus.
Cyanide Jesus.
No, what is that song called? But they write the songs like with computer first, and then try and do the.
They digitally program it first?
Yeah, they like
It's like on
program it and
Guitar
then
Pro or
learn to
something?
play these like insane time signatures, and they can't do it. Like I don't know, that's kind of an interesting way of marrying like that technology with the.
You can literally
guitar.
punch in the guitar. What's that guitar? That Ultimate Guitar offered that program. You could download it, and it gives you the tablature, and you can literally just punch in the the numbers and the rhythms, and then it'll like play it for you. And then you could slow it down, speed it up.
Oh, the like tabulature software.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, the band's called Meshuggah. That's the
Meshuggah.
one that I was thinking of.
They're amazing.
Yeah, they're insane, and so like they can do that stuff, which is pretty incredible. And I find like I'm not an expert about their music, but I think that's neat to like get into rhythms like that are like you probably wouldn't have even thought of that if you were just trying to write it off of an instrument. Like you
Very
kind of
strange.
need the computer
So
to get there.
They actually do on the later albums, at least. I mean, they've been around since like the 80s. You've read somewhere that they actually program it first?
I think so. Yeah, like to write a lot
Just
of the
like to
songs.
break it
Just
down,
write like
probably.
the really, really weird signatures and then learn how to play to them with like. Because I found a lot of the guitar lines aren't like melodically complex because
It's
the
just
rhythm
rhythm.
is already so complex that.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
always
it'd be like
imagine
droning on a note.
I always imagine Meshuggah, like the drummer, just like writes out a bunch of crazy ass math equations, and then and then he sits down with the other guys and he's like, "All right, so you're gonna chug on 6.5, and you're gonna, you know."
Yeah,
That's how I always imagine it. Have you seen them live?
I have not. I would love to see that band though.
I caught them in here in Toronto at the what's it called, Sound Academy, the Docks or
Okay.
whatever. It was unreal. I saw a fight. I saw a pair of tits, and actually I met Aaron Marshall there that night from Intervals.
Oh, okay.
I tried to get him to punch me in the face, but he wouldn't do it.
Why would you want him to punch you in the
Because
face?
the way I saw it, it was going to be the most metal story that would have ever happened, is being punched in the face by Aaron Marshall at a Meshuggah concert.
Okay.
But he was too nice of a guy to actually do it.
Yeah. Also.
And he looked at me
he'd
like I was
probably
insane.
Be risking his fingers, so that's. You know,
True. He could have just given me like a little light one, you know?
I guess, but then your story would be he lightly tapped me on the face.
Yeah, but
because you didn't want to risk breaking his fingers.
I was pretty drunk at the time, and looking back, he's probably really freaked out by the whole ordeal. But I was pretty young, man. I was like a teenager still.
True.
I was just being dumb. It would have been a sick story. I guess it's still a pretty good story. I met Aaron Marshall at a Meshuggah concert.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty chill guy. Okay, what else? You got some touring coming up?
Yeah, we're looking to go in May. We're going to announce some shows here just throughout Ontario. You want to try out a new format of our live show. And so that should be pretty fun.
New format, how so?
Just like technically how we're organizing our set and stuff like that. I'm hoping it will allow me to play more of a kind of traditional frontman role, be able to move around stage like that and focus a little bit more on singing instead of like, because I'm playing
So far
kind of
you've been
complex
singing and
guitar
playing at the
parts and
same time?
stuff. Yeah, there's I'm doing that, and then also I've used quite a bit of effects changes and stuff like that, which is a lot to manage at your feet. So trying to get rid of that kind of distraction, because that just gets in the way of performing sometimes.
Yeah, when you got all these freaking pedals in front of you. Do you got pedals for both guitar and voice?
No, just for guitar, and I've kind of simplified that by using a digital amp called a Kemper, which has made the job a little bit easier. But still, it just like when you got to look down at your feet, even if it's briefly, like for changes of a song, it just kind of like breaks the fluidity of just like performing for people.
Yeah, well, you're already playing whatever on your fingers, and then you got to think of the next verse that you're singing. Like, that's a challenge in itself. And then, how many pedals do you even have?
Well, with the digital thing, they're all internal, so thankfully it's just one foot pedal. But I used to run a really, really big board, and then it was a lot to manage.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to change up your format? Like, are you going to put the guitar down a bit more?
A little bit of that, a little bit of like we're going to, I think, sync the show to a tempo.
So
to a
your
tempo
drummer
track.
has like a MIDI,
Yeah, so we'll all have like
or you all have it.
we'll all have a click in some form, and just that like um, opens a lot of opportunities to like sync up lights to a show and to
true.
add all these like really interesting production elements that are pretty hard to do otherwise. So
Yeah.
It will probably take a little bit of adapting, but it's just like really neat how scalable it becomes.
Is that like going to help take you guys like to the next level?
I mean, one would hope, but
Just bigger stages.
yeah, well, it prepares you for those scenarios where, again, like
If you have the
for me,
opportunity.
in terms of our live show, it's when we have the money for it, I love the idea of designing, light shows, designing sets and stuff for the thing to become an entire production. You think of bands like Muse, I would say, is like a really good example of that,
Yeah.
where a lot of thought goes into that beyond the music and stuff
Same
like
like
that.
Tool as well.
Yeah,
The light
which
show
is
and
huge.
the
They're-
background.
Yeah, the
It's like a
visuals
whole
and all that kind
experience
of
instead
stuff.
of just music.
For sure.
Yeah. What do you guys got so far to? Are you working on a light show?
No, like not at the
Or
moment.
that's just depending on? I guess that depends on the venue, right?
It does, and then I might try and incorporate something like simple that is synced to tempo, even just a little bit, to kind of augment the lights at a lot of places. But yeah, I mean, a lot of smaller clubs aren't really set up for it, and it's just really expensive on our part. Like that's a thing
Yeah,
that
sure.
we'll look to the
Cover the Juno Fest.
yeah, just in a couple weeks we're gonna again. It should be fun. So, Juno Fest, we're gonna play at the Rock Cabaret on the Friday, I think it is. Which, yeah, I played there, I think a couple tours ago. It's like yeah, usually like one of
Really? They shot.
didn't shoot there. It was like a theater where people could go and security for some pictures.
Okay, yeah. I was imagining a studio.
Yeah, no,
That's,
a theater.
yeah. Before the internet, you actually had to go watch it at a theater or buy a. I guess you'd buy a VHS too. It's the weirdest thing. There's gotta be at least one.
They exist somewhere, I'm sure. It's not a place that I would frequent it, wearing some hats too.
Go for it, and no, I'm just trying to get a picture in my head. Cool. So it turned it into a venue.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure the variety that hit, but that is what I've heard.
It's like, the Junos are they being held there in Vancouver?
Vancouver this year, so June's kind of a multi-venue festival that surrounds the Juno activities, which is cool. So there's like every venue in the city will pretty much have shows every night and weekend. Yeah, it should be. And that's coming to London next year, right?
Cool. It's gonna get it one way or another.
In some capacity, we'll see if we can
Cool.
generate some more buzz this year.
Generate some buzz, maybe, maybe not anything. Combination, maybe? I don't want to jinx it.
Let's see.
Shit. Those are weird. When you get down and you're like writing, recording, do you consider it, like CBC are gonna want to hear? Do you consider that? Like, do you?
Do, but I try not to think too much because you usually yeah, I mean, it's very much a format to what works at radio.
It's like, is there like an industry standard for recording? Goes like,
Well, yes, in terms of like the quality of the product, yes, but in terms of like how
format,
like
right?
what the format of the song is and stuff like that, format, and then also at the same time, like if you try and follow that format, it'll sound repetitive and it won't do well. So there has to be some kind of something extremely unique about the song. Yeah, I don't know if you focus more on that than you do on just trying to express yourself. I think will take away from it in the end.
See that for sure. That's weird. You definitely don't want to you don't cater your sound or whatever too much to somebody else, right? It's robbing the music from what it actually is meant to be, right? It's supposed to be like a raw sort of art form. You're putting yourself like you for people like emotionally or whatever. If you're too much to like a radio station thing, you're gonna be not gonna be from the heart, so to speak.
And people see through it. Listeners are I think, is more intelligent. Like they can tell being in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think
You think there's like an actual formula in popular music? You look at but like coming out with these like new love song or something or bit. That's one about the name. Or a certain
there isn't there are like production techniques that sort of get you 90% of the way there, and the rest of it, there truly has to be something that is exciting. Like when you're talking about it, you're looking at some songwriters like in the world right now that can be like that in and of itself kind of it is a subjective thing, right? Incredibly catchy songs.
what do you think is like repetition? Like I know in the 80s they discovered you just keep the same chorus like 1 time, it's gonna sell sides of the stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the like exciting part about songwriting is you don't know what is going to
What works and
what
doesn't.
is going to stick. But yeah, that's I mean the role of a good producer mentality is to hear those things and on the part that are really but to just I think you can just like I don't know if you can plan a lot of the stuff you want to exist. You can like, sit and in terms of like that's I think pop music is sold short in that way a lot because I don't know people consider it to be derivative, but like at the core of each of those songs, somebody has like
What's the producers in the world are working on those pops, like production value, like through the roof.
yeah, not just producers, but there'll be top liners and like there's some people who like their job is just to go in a vocal booth and just like yell essentially over top of a beat and like just in that process there will some line some melody will come out and they'll develop a song just off of that thing. And with all high-powered computers and technology that we have, that we still can't get a robot. So
It's true. Yeah.
a human element is still there, even though be a lot of it out by using quantization and shit.
This made me think of something. I've been before, like I'm in music too. I've done shows, I've done studio stuff. For instance, like performing live, and stepping into a studio, especially like I find studio work is so nerve-wracking and difficult because it's so like it's just you don't have the added of like a crowd and like around you like bring your voice up. You know, it's not like you're not feeling the vibration. Would you find it harder to sing in a studio than you would in a live show?
Yeah, for sure. There's so much focus on you and your plan. You're not thinking about that. There's like a bunch of external stimuli that like kind of keeps you from focusing so much on yourself, and that in singing, the more you think about singing, the further you are. So yeah, that's what a lot of people put an amount of effort into trying to make vocals feel comfortable in the studio, and like get down to temperature, lighting, and all this kind of stuff for
Temperature.
like seems ridiculous, but like performance, like understand that I need that in my own life, but when I'm yeah, I become very interested in singing in my own environment, doing most
Like videos or anything that you do to like get stuff for that
I do vocal exercises. Sure. Other than that,
it's a lot of pressure, the permanence of it all too, right? You want to have to
I think like enough to spend that time like trying to get rid of that like how we're gonna listen to the song for the rest of time. That you put
but
yeah,
yeah,
you want to be focusing on the takes an effort to get out of mindset.
you're saying you got less you think or you
Like it's not necessarily my goal. It's when I find enough to will often be thinking about hitting notes more than I am about I have no
yeah,
that right kind of feeling.
like they're conveying
You kind of there are some like beautiful things that come out in your face. So I don't know you're just like too careful and restrained.
yeah.
Maybe people can be able to say that particularly, but I think they can feel it in the end.
I don't know where it's gonna go from there.
So, and that's like you sing in general is completely psychological thing. And I found a function in general is way more psychological than I ever really didn't even like to know what it meant to be a producer originally. I think you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a guy who's like a favorite, who's telling people to play certain things and that kind of thing. But it is like it's a deeply psychological job. You're trying to make people feel comfortable enough to express really genuine emotions and put things that take that are special, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah, do you do a lot of the production?
I co-produced all our stuff. Last two records with them and Broadbeck. He's from London as well.
Right on, cool.
And he's super fun to work with. It's like, you know, like he can really keep a session fun, but even if that's where usually moving pretty quickly on huge budgets for these songs. the time. He like keeps the mood light and not, you know,
Pressure up.
yeah, keeps it like people don't feel like they're working and you're having fun. Like it's all that much easier. So some of the stuff is done in London on the last record. The drums were at Dope Street. We've been working back a bit in the past as well.
I have my camera delivered across the street. I feel like I check that soon.
Yeah, Street Studio.
Doing some interviews there. Just like at least interview your producer. What was his name?
Trying to hold Dan or Matt Brady is the head engineer.
Those guys.
Yeah.
I think that's everything else you want to cover
That's all I got, man.
from me now that I can work with. Yeah, that's cool. It's a nice conversation. Is there, this is going to be permanent, like we're going to have this or whatever you want to call it. This podcast is just going to be on record for as long as we're alive.
As long as
Is there any, do you want to plug any information that somebody that maybe hasn't heard of Ivory Hours can?
hop on Spotify, check out the music. Hopefully you enjoy it. We're going to put some new music soon as well.
Shows coming up?
Yeah, some shows in May. So if you're in Ontario and listening to this, keep your eyes on our site and come out and say hi.
Cool. All right, Luke, thanks so much.